Hi everyone and welcome to episode 3 in our ability system series. In this episode we're going to cover how to do the cast bar. So then we click or activate an ability, we display a casting bar for the player to cast their spell. So to begin with, we're going to start off with the user interface element of the cast bar. I'm going to go in my URL folder and I'm going to add a cast bar widget to this. I'm going to make a new user interface widget blueprint. I'm going to call this one cast bar underscore UI. We'll open this up and inside here we'll be adding our progress bar along with some other features to it. So I'm going to get rid of the canvas panel and replace it with a size box. And I'm going to tell the size box to override the width by 800. I'm going to change this from fill screen to desired so I can see what's going on. Next, inside here we're going to do an overlay. And inside this overlay we're going to have a progress bar alongside some text. Like so. So my progress bar, I'm going to tell it to fill horizontally and vertically. It covers the whole width of the overlay. And with my text block, I'm going to do exactly the same. But this time I'm going to scroll down to justification and center it into the middle of its box. So now my progress bar, if I change the percent of this, you can see that's what it's going to look like. Okay. And we can choose what color we're going to use as well. I'm going to change the color to be a sort of green color, like so. I'm going to drag it to the top to save it for later use. So this text block is going to be the name of the spell, so I'm going to change the name of this one up top here to ability name text and tick the is variable box because it will be changing. And with the progress bar it will also be changing, so we need to make sure we change the name of this one to make it a bit easier to see. Cast bar, we can leave it as cast bar, and it should be already ticked as is variable. And lastly, we just need to tick the size box for this thing and change the overall name for this thing as cast bar root. We'll call it that. Okay, and tick is variable. Okay, so now we've got that, we're going to go into our graph and we're going to add a new variable, and we're going to add the variable ability. And the type of this is going to be ability, and it's going to be object type, object reference. So when we're casting this, we're actually passing through to it an instance of an ability that's been spawned into the world, and then we can use that ability's details to customize the name and the cast timer for this spell. So this thing requires a couple of functions. So in your functions on the left hand side, click new function and go start cast. We also need another function saying completed cast, and another one saying interrupted cast. So the first thing we're going to do is going to look at our start cast function. On our start cast function, we're going to get our ability and choose get, and then from there we want to get the ability details. Right click on this and split it to see the contents of that structure. Now, as we said before, we can use the ability name text variable now. Use get, and we're going to set it to say some text first. So set text, and in text for this we're going to go into a format text node, and my format text node is going to say, I'm going to type in casting, do capital C, casting, curly brackets, name, close curly brackets. Now I'll add a parameter to our format text box, which I can plug in my ability name into that. So let us set that. Next, I'm going to set the cast bar itself, set percent to be 0, so make sure it starts at 0%. And then we're going to start a timer. So we're going to set timer by function name. I'm going to say the function name is going to be completed cast. So after a certain amount of time, it's going to call this function, and the time is going to come from our cast timer from the ability details here. I'm going to drag that across to time there. Now I need this timer so we can animate the percent bar. So I'm going to drag this out and promote that to a variable. I'm going to call this cast timer. Hit compile. Now we will be returning to this in a moment, but for now let's move on. So as I said, we're going to use this cast timer to animate the progress bar so I can see it growing over time. So I'm going to go into my event graph, and we're going to use the tick event to control this. Now the reason why we're using tick is because we need to constantly update the progress bar on its length. So drag out your cast timer and choose get. Now from this we need to work out the percentage that the time has elapsed. So we're going to go and get timer elapsed, get timer remaining. Now to work out this into percentage, we need to add these two together. And this will get us the amount of time that we've passed so far, how much time we've got left, and it together gives us the total time that we have. And we're then going to do a normalize to range. Like so. This total won't go into value, it will go instead to range max. That is the maximum amount of time that this percentage could last. The value though will be the elapsed time. So now this normalized to range, what it'll do is it will take the range of values between 0 and the max amount of time and convert the current value to a normalized value, being a value between 0 and 1, which we can then use to set the percentage on our cast bar. We get cast bar, set percent, and do that as in percent there. Now rather than just plugging the tick in like so, we don't want to do this we only want to do this if the cast bar is actually visible and being used. So what we're going to do is from there we're going to go is visible, it's visible, and put that into a branch. And that way it will only do it if this current widget is visible. If it isn't, then it won't, saving us a bit of compute time and calculations on the optimization. Okay, so now we're done with this, we can close this, and we're going to get ready to add this to our action bar, or our HUD rather. So let's go into a heads-up display, and let's add our cast bar to our scene here. So cast bar, drag it to the canvas panel, and we want to size to content. Now I'm going to position this to be in the center at the bottom, and I'm going to reposition it at 0, 0. Alignment is going to be 0.5 in the X, and Y doesn't really matter too much, but I'm going to just put in 1, and my position in the Y we're going to decrease, be above the action bar like so. So let's go minus 325 like so, and that's not too bad. Compile, and we are done there. So part of this HUD is going to be a new function for this cast bar. So in your graph, add a new function, and this is going to be display cast bar. And this function is going to take one input, and that's going to be the ability we're casting. So ability to cast, and its type is going to be ability object reference. So on display cast bar, we're going to drag the cast bar UI out, get, and we're going to tell this thing to set its visibility to be visible. And then we're going to tell its ability, set ability, to be equal to our ability to cast here. So we're changing its visibility to be visible, and then we're telling its ability is the ability we told it to cast here. And then finally, we're going to tell it to start the cast. So drag from there again and start cast. Hit compile. Back on the designer view, we want to make the default value for our cast bar to be invisible or hidden. So find where it says visibility and change that to hidden. Hit compile. So when you play the game, you shouldn't see the cast bar. Like so. Okay. So the next trick is to make it so that when we click on this button, it communicates to the HUD to tell it to display that cast bar. So the way this works is we need to go onto the ability actor itself. So let's go to the ability parent actor, and we're going to make the new function for this. This one called begin casting. Okay. Now begin casting is going to be the function that plays as soon as this thing has been spawned. Once it's been spawned into the world, it will check whether or not it needs to be casted. If it does need to be casted, then we'll tell it the heads up display to display the cast bar. So drag your ability details out, split this, and you want to look at the cast time. If the cast time is greater than 0, this will go into a branch. If the cast time is greater than 0, we're going to tell it to access the HUD and turn on the cast bar. If it's false, we'll tell it just to cast a spell without casting it. So what we'll need to do is get a reference to the HUD. So on the event graph, we're going to do the begin play. Let's delete these other two. So at the start of an ability's life, it's going to get game mode, cast to the third person game mode in this case, get the heads up display reference, and we're going to promote that to a local variable here. Well, not local, but a variable on this ability, sorry. So we go HUD underscore UI, put that in. Okay, so now we've got a reference to the HUD user interface on the ability. So on that begin casting, we can drag that HUD UI out and tell it to display cast bar. Now it'll ask for an ability to cast. In this case, it's itself. So ability to cast becomes self. And after that, we want to be able to communicate between the cast bar being successful and then this ability doing something in response to that. So on display cast bar, we need an output here to determine when to bind an event to its cast successful. So I'm going to go onto that cast bar in the UI here, and we're going to go to its graph and add an event dispatcher and call this one cast successful. Hit compile and go to a completed cast function. Remember, this function is being called when that timer on our start cast has ended. Okay, so when it's ended, we're going to tell it to, when we drag that out, call cast successful. So it's basically just going to shout out that it's successful to anything that's listening. What we do then is tell the ability to listen out for that cast success. So in display cast bar, the function in heads up display, we want one output on this function. So click on the function, new output, and then the output here would be the cast bar reference, and the type for this would be a castbar UI object reference. Okay, and we can drag castbar UI out and connect it to the castbar there. Hit compile. So if I go back to my ability, I should now see castbar is an output of my display castbar, which means I now have access to that event dispatcher that was set up earlier. So here I can bind event to cast successful. So when this thing hears cast successful, it's going to do something, this event here. Now the event it's going to cast it to, no, not cast to, event it's going to bind to is going to be a new function. So create a new function, and we'll call this one cast ability. On begin casting, we now need to hook that cast ability to this event and to false. False is easy enough, we just drag cast ability out and plug it into false. But for bind event, we need to type in the word event to create event, and we're going to select the cast ability function from the drop down. Hit compile, and that will now call that cast ability event when it hears that cast is successful. Hit save, and we are done there. So that's all set up, but what we need to actually do is make it so when we click on that button, it actually does this thing here. Okay, so begin casting will only happen at the start when it's very much spawned into the world, which happens on begin play. So let's drag begin casting to the end of begin play. Next, we need to tell this ability to spawn when we click on that button. So let's go into our action bar slots UI, click on the graph, and we want to click on our cast button in the variable list and choose the on-clicked event in the details panel below. So when this cast button is selected, we want to tell it to spawn in an actor of this ability class. So spawn actor from class, and drag your ability class to it. Now the spawn transform is going to come from the player that's casting it. So in this case, it's the player character. So we're going to get player character, and then from there, get actor transform. Hit compile. So click on that button will now spawn this actor. The actor, when spawned, will where is it? Will trigger the begin play, which will then trigger the begin casting. Begin casting will see that it needs the cast timer, which will then trigger the display cast bar function in the heads up display, which is then triggering the visibility of the cast bar and its timer. When that timer succeeds, this cast ability will happen. Now to test this out, we're going to go into cast ability and just do a print string in here to say hello when it's been casted successfully. Let's test this out. Apologies, we forgot one thing. Well, I forgot one thing. Go into your action bar slot UI, click on the cooldown bar, and we need to tell this thing not to be interactable. So when it says visibility, change that to non-hit testable self only. This means that the mouse will click through it, and so ignoring the cast bar. So therefore the button will receive the hit, not anything else. So then I can hit play, hit the button, and there's my casting fireball. It's the end, says hello. All we need now to do is tell the cast bar to disappear when it's done. So let's go into our cast bar, its graph. On completed cast, it's not just going to call the cast successful, but it's also going to do the visibility of this widget. Set visibility and change it to hidden. Test this out now. Hit the button. Hello. Hit the button again. There we go. So what that will do for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to go through the process of adding an interruptible spell to our system. So then when I click the button and then move, it'll interrupt the spell. Or if I click another spell, it'll also update, also interrupt the spell and move on. If you want to see the next part right now, you can head over to patreon.com/RyanLaley. Or if you want to download the project files for this entire project, you can find them on Patreon as well for gold members for $10 or more. Thanks very much for watching, and big thank you to everyone who supported me doing this endeavour. Wouldn't be doing this without you guys, so massive thank you and props to you all. And that'll be all for me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.